How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully everyone is having a lovely weekend. So, Jamarr Chase, you know, when he was asked about who the best quarterback in the league was, asked about Patrick Mahomes, in essence, there in an interview, Jamarr Chase went out there and was like, Pat who? Taking a little shot at Patrick Mahomes. Now, as we know, I mean, come on, there's... As a Bengals fan, it's easy to say, well, yeah, you're going to back up your quarterback here and say, bro's the best quarterback in the league. Obviously, what he was insinuating there, just what you would expect out of chasing a teammate in general. But regardless, you know, we kind of knew that was a shot being taken at Patrick Mahomes, a shot being taken at the Chiefs. So Patrick Mahomes decided to answer with a picture of him and his 2 Super Bowl rings on. And there's a lot of, you know, you're on one side of the fence or the other of how you feel about that answer. I tell you what. I have no problem. I love it. I do love it. I know people are like, wow, it's 4 months later and you're thinking about the Bengals. And I'm like, it's 4 months later. And I don't think it's a question. The best football team in the last 5 to 6 years in the NFL has been the Kansas City Chiefs. Across the league, it's been unanimously known at points in times, or considered at points in times, that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. Do I think Patrick Mahomes will be as good as Joe Burrow is? Will we have in that conversation, you know, at the end of this year, a couple years? I don't think. I think Burrow will be a better quarterback. I do firmly believe that. But the stats don't lie. The paper doesn't lie. The rings don't lie. The awards don't lie. That Patrick Mahomes right now is considered the best in the league. And to think you have all of that, and this guy is entertaining the Bengals. To think all of these Chiefs fans, the only thing on their mind is the Cincinnati Bengals 4 months later. You could call it obsessive, or you could call it a good rivalry, and a rivalry that is getting better and better by the day. It's one thing, and this is, you know, again, this is kind of like the Browns-Bengals rivalry. I honestly, personally, I could care less about it. Browns fans seem to be really, you follow them on Twitter, you don't follow them, but you see like the retweets, whatever on Twitter, they seem to be really interested. They seem to like talking a lot of smack about the Bengals and all this and that. It's like, honestly, I honestly don't care, you know? And I think that's because, sure, the Browns might be the Bengals in the regular season, but it's not a competition, you know, between, I don't think it's a competitive rivalry. It really hasn't been in a long time. Either the Browns are really bad, which is usually what happens, or the Bengals are bad, and it's not really a rivalry. So it's like, as the better team, I'm not interested in it. But you put that role on Kansas City and say Kansas City's the better team. Kansas City can have a beef with any team. These fans can have a beef with any team they want in the league. And they're putting the most prestige, they're putting the most attention, and they're putting the most work and effort into trashing the Bengals and talking about the Bengals. And again, I loved it. Because that goes both ways. The Bengals fans, the Bengals players, all these people that need to be participating are participating in this rivalry. And I think that makes for good television. That makes for a good football matchup. That makes for a great rivalry. And it's something I don't think the Bengals have had in a long time. You know, minus the Bengals Steelers, I don't think, you know, long time since they've had a good rivalry. And I think it's good. I think it's good for the Bengals. I think it's good for football. And I'm just glad to see it's happening. You know, middle of the offseason, it doesn't need to be happening. And, you know, as times have changed, the chirping, the trash talk, it's kind of gone down. It's a little bit more frowned upon, like, oh, don't fire up the opponent, don't motivate them, whatever, this and that. I mean, I get it. Again, I get the perspective. Everybody's welcome to feel the way they want to feel about things. I'll say this, you know, when it comes to trash talk, when it comes to a big rivalry stuff, I've always stood the same way. I like me some good trash talk. I think it's great. I think it makes for a better storyline. It makes for a better rivalry. It makes things more exciting. But there's also a line. You don't cross the line when it comes to, and you know, I think a lot of us at this point in time, we know what that is. Oh, we don't need to attack in families. You don't be attacking, you know, race, gender, whatever. You know, everything. That line. You know, there's that line. Mental health. You throw that in there. You know. There's stuff you don't cross, but there is a whole lot of stuff we can talk about and a whole lot of good times we can be having without crossing those lines. I think, you know, Chad Johnson did a great job of that. You look at it today, we always talk about the rivalries. Floyd Mayweather is one boring freaking fighter. There's no other boxer that I'd rather watch fight, you know, because the guy is a heck of a promoter. Same with Conor McGregor. People watch football games because of Chad Johnson, because of T.O. What was these guys going to do in the end zone? When you have these polarizing figures, when you have these invested rivalries where there's hatred and there's drive on both sides, that's what really makes things great. I mean, come on. Again, you can have a respectful game, but as a competitive athlete in a pretty combative sport, do you want to be sitting there shaking hands, taking photos after a big game in a rivalry game? Is that considered a rivalry? Or do you want to actually hate this opponent? I hate the opponent on the field. To be perfectly clear, I don't like Patrick Mahomes on the field. He's a rival. I don't want him to do good. I hope he loses every football game in the freaking earth. Go ahead, lose them all. As a person off the football field, though, personally, I don't know him. I don't know who this freaking guy is. I don't hate him. I don't love him. I don't know him. And I think that's the separation. That's what, again, but on the field, you better believe it. And I think it tells a lot when both sides are invested. Both sides are invested. Both teams are talking. Both teams. It motivates both teams. And I think that's the best part about it, where you don't go into a locker room and say, oh, you're saying something, firing up the other team. They don't clap back. They don't say something. All you're doing is firing up the other team to play better. But when both teams participate, you're mutually firing each other up. Go out there and dog it out. So who's the better football team? And I think that's kind of what these two teams understand too, that are part of this rivalry. They realize this is in each team's franchise. This is a historic time of their dynasty, time of their franchise's history. These two teams, who knows when they'll be this dominant again? They have two of the best quarterbacks in the league, and you can believe for the next 10 years, this is going to be one of, if not the most must-watch rivalry in football. Mahomes versus Burrow, and they're all embracing it. And again, I think that's why you consider, hey, best rivalry in football right now, entering the 2023 season, most anticipated rivalry, most anticipated game. I think it is. I love to hear your guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.